Hello, dear English teachers in Peru and English teachers from different countries around the world. Welcome, everyone. You were invited to enjoy another amazing presentation today as part of our summer webinar series. The topic for today is really interesting, enhancing the writing skill. Don't forget, dear teachers, to follow us on Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram, TikTok, and on YouTube. Before starting our presentation, it's important to consider some instructions. Please type your questions in the comments section. The answers to your questions and comments will be replied by our guest speaker at the end of the webinar in the question time section. About the exit ticket. When finishing the webinar, we will share the link for you to have access to the exit ticket, which will be available just for 15 minutes. Now it's time to know about our guest speaker for today's webinar. And Ms. Mariela Condorena is ready to introduce her. Ms. Mariela.
Hello, dear Suli. Yes, I'm ready. And today we are going to know our guest speaker. She is Karen Meza. Karen Meza Fernandez has been an English teacher in public and private schools and universities. She has been working as an English language teacher trainer at the Escuela de Educación Superior Pedagógica en Monterrico. Karen has been the academic director of the Colegio Mayor Presidente del Perú. She's currently working in the English department at the Dirección de Educación Secundaria of the Ministry of Education. And during the year of 2020 or 2020, she led the creation and elaboration of the pedagogical materials for the English area of the Aprendo en Casa strategy. Likewise, in 2021, she led the creation and elaboration of the television programs for the English area, and she's one of the developers of the pedagogical materials for the web and platform of Aprendo en Casa 2021 and 2022. Finally, she's a student at the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Dear Karen, the audience is all yours. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Mariela. Thank you, Sulamita. Thank you, English teachers in Peru and everybody who's connected. Just one little thing to correct in my bio. I'm sorry, I forgot to delete that part. I'm not working at the Ministry of Education anymore. I decided to change my life, but always related to ELT and education. So thank you very much again for all of you for being there. Thank you. I know it's hard to be on a Saturday, ready to listen to somebody, but please let's make this as active as possible. We will be posting some links for you to enter a form. We will be asking you some questions so that you can answer also through the chat, and I will be reading them or asking my colleagues to read them for me. So I will start sharing my screen. Okay, yes, sound is being shared, and there it is. So today we are together to see how we can enhance the writing skill. We all know that the 4 skills we are working on are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And writing being probably one of the hardest for students. And we will see why and what we can do to approach this skill better and produce more texts. So through this presentation, I intend to recognize with you what the writing skill is, through their theory, through its theory, sorry, what the curriculum says and what the CFR says, the Common European Framework of Reference. Also, we will be reflecting on the attitudes that the students have towards writing. Let's reflect on that a little bit. And we will examine some specific activities so that you probably apply them, but always adapting them to your context. Some may work for some students and some may not, and some may be even much better put into execution when you have the real students in front of you. So I'm going to ask my partners to share, please, this link. Please enter this link. You will have only 3 questions just to check on them. It won't take not even 1 minute. So please enter this survey. And I will continue working on something, and then we will go back to the survey to see the results of your answers, okay? So what is writing? I told you we will be analyzing some of the theory. According to Brown, learning to write in a second language is definitely the most difficult way of expressing for students who are learning a second language, even if it's a foreign language like us. So whoever is learning a foreign language or a second language, probably they will find that writing is the hardest skill to cope with. It also says, according to Connor, that writing is a cultural phenomenon. Culture, look at what all of this means. What is culture? What it brings with it. So if writing is a cultural phenomenon and learning to write in a second language is not just idiosyncratic variation, but involves recurring patterns of organization and rhetorical conventions from our first language, from the student's native language and culture. So in a culture of students who have a specific way of writing, that's probably what they will transfer to a second language if they learn it formally, and even not formally when they start acquiring it. How can we tackle some of the difficulties that we know they will find? Let's see. So this is what the theory says. This is what writing is for second language learners or foreign language learners. What does the Common European Framework of Reference says? Writing is there, and we have specific descriptors for what they should be doing or what they should be able to do, or for what they can do with that skill. I have extracted some of the descriptors for B1. B1, you know, is probably after below A1 or pre-A1, we have A1, A2, B1. I have copied this intentionally because this is what, if we make a parallel with the national curriculum, is probably how our students should be ending up their secondary education. The CFR has these aspects that they see when they assess writing. And remember, we're talking about assessing as our clarity of what we expect from the learner. I think in different conversations with other specialists from the Ministry of Education, EFL specialists, Peruvian or international, if we want the students to learn something, we should know where we want them to get and how we are going to see if they got there successfully or not. And that's what we call assessment for learning. So if I know what is being expected or what is being assessed when we see the writing skill, then we know what path or what I should do in order to take students into this journey to get to that final destination. And here we have range, coherence, argument, description, and accuracy. When we talk about range, I'm not going to read it all, you have it there on the screen, but you have some words or phrases that I highlighted. For B1, they should have enough vocabulary to be able to express themselves in different topics, but not all of the topics that we have, but family, hobbies, and interests, work and travel, and current events. And that's for us as being part of or as we are implementing the national curriculum, we know that everything is contextualized, so English is not away from that. On the contrary, whenever we use the English language, or we want the students to develop the English language, we need to put everything in context. So that's what it means for the CEFR to be at B1 level when we talk about range. When we talk about coherence, we're talking about how our sentences are connected, how our ideas are connected. And they say that the students will be able to link shorter, discrete elements into connected linear text. So there are ideas that are coherent. So two or three sentences will be together coherently and cohesively, no? Accuracy is more related to how correct things are, but now correction not only meaning 100% grammar correct, but being able to communicate what you wanted to using the language that is needed. So when students use accurately a repertoire of frequently used routines and patterns that are associated with more common situations, then that's accurate. Errors can happen, yes, but still with those errors, the reader can understand the message. So then we have description. Here are texts that in a way are more like a narrative. So they are just describing, well, just is also difficult, it's not just, but they are describing experiences, feelings, reactions, events, they narrate the stories, and they give detailed descriptions on a range of familiar subjects. So this is what we have as description, but we also have argument. An argument, is saying why we're saying what we are saying. There is a reason behind everything we do, and in this case, everything we write. And in this case, when we write about ideas, we need to have backup of those ideas. We need to justify them. So those are arguments. When students can write short, simple essays. So here we have texts that are much more complex. In a way, they are called academic texts, no? Simple essays on topics of interest. They can summarize. It means they can read A text, B text, or listen to something, or see something, and they are able to summarize it in their writing piece. So they are able to report or create a text out of what they read, saw, or listened. And they can write brief reports. So they create the reports, not only summarizing, but also they create those brief reports in a standard conventionalized format, which pass on routine factual information and state reasons for actions. Again, reasons, that's why it's argumentative. So if this is what we are expecting students to finish their secondary education, now I'm sure some of you are saying, why, but this is so hard. How can students write like that? Will they be able to? This is what they are supposed to be writing after all of the years in school, starting from primary. And there is the question, when is primary going to start? And then I don't have the answer, but I'm sure there are many initiatives and there are things that will be happening. But while it is not happening, if I go back to the CFR, it's safer for me as a teacher of English right now in a public education system to go to the A2 level. Safer not because it's easier, because to reach this level, it's also hard for students. For someone who doesn't know the language, it's hard. And let's see what they expect from an A2 student internationally with the CFR. What is it that you don't see? There is one aspect that is not being assessed here in A2 that was in B1. Are you able to see that difference? Do you know? I mean, can you remember if you were paying attention? Probably you saw that they were 5, but here now we only have 4. I'm looking at the text, the chat to see if there is an answer. Maybe sometimes my mobile gets stuck, so I don't know if there is one, but anyway, so if I go back to this one and I return to the next one, back and return, which one is it? It's argument. No? So I'm reading now some of your answers. Jan is telling us that obviously with 3 hours a week in secondary level, my students cannot get the B1 level. And not only because of that, but because they did not start from the beginning so that they go, you know, upwards in the standards as it is planned ideally. Argument, very good. MT, I don't know who MT is. Yes, she noticed it was argument. Thank you, Aljaris, Marcela, Liliana, Maria Enriqueta, Oblitas, Rocio. Oh, you all noticed. Thank you very much, Miss Eva as well, and Carmen Amelia Gonzalez. So if I see A2 as that north, as that target for my students in the public system, then I should recognize this from the CFR. Range, coherence, description, and accuracy. In this case, range means that the students use basic sentence patterns with memorized phrases. So here they are saying that the students should be able to memorize phrases, groups of a few words, and formulae in order to communicate limited information, mainly in everyday situations. So, okay, yes, they should memorize, but they should be able also to formulate their own. Not about every single topic, but everyday situations. Still, when we talk about everyday situations, we're talking about the context of the student, the context of their region, the word. So it's everyday situations, but also being more focused on communicative daily situations they may need to use the language. Coherence. Here, they are talking about specific linking words like and, but, and because. So we need to work on that a lot. It seems easy, but it is not. It is not. Even in Spanish, some people use it wrongly. But in English, to write it, to put ideas that are complementing, so they use and. Ideas that are contrasting, but. When I am giving a reason, because. We can use synonyms? Yes. Let's try to use the synonyms. And that's okay. But at least they should be using these 3 ideas when they connect sentences. These 3 different ways of connecting sentences. Adding, contrasting, and giving reasons. There are synonyms again. I want to emphasize that. So that, am I going to work only those 3 in all secondary? No, obviously not. We have however for a synonym of but, nevertheless, depending on how we work with them. No? Accuracy is more like uses simple structures now, but still systematically, and can happen. Some mistakes can happen. And sometimes those errors, because they are still using basic structures, can probably confuse the reader, but still they are writing and they are using simple structures. And they write descriptive text. So they write very short, basic descriptions of events, past activities, and personal experiences. They can write short, simple, imaginary biographies and simple poems about people. We're not talking about poems that are very complex, but probably we're talking about acronyms, for example, or very simple. Again, it's a short, simple poems. That's what it says here. My question is, do you think your students will be able to finish like this when in the writing skill when they finish their secondary education? If your answer is no, what should you be doing? Then go back to A1 level. My guess is if we work on this throughout the 5 years, not having primary, but having 5 years, 2 hours or 3 hours a week, this is likely to be demonstrated in their writing. This is very likely. Okay, wait a moment. Yes. What do you think? Or am I just saying whatever? Am I just throwing something that nobody will be able to reach? Some students may have difficulties, yes, but the majority may reach this. I'm being positive and I think they can, as well as Luz Jaramillo, who is also saying yes, and Besar 66, yes, Miriam, yes. Miriam says, please type your comments here. All right, so we have seen what writing is in the theory, what the CFR is, and now we will see what our famous Curriculum Nacional de Educación Básica says, and I'm going to switch into Spanish for this. And this is the question of $1 million, because everybody asks, that, and it's okay to think like that because that's how it was presented. But if we are really critical, if we use our reasoning, the question is, how, if I have a student who's in 5th year of secondary right now, how am I going to assess the student in the 7th standard? Am I going to expect the student to reach the 7th level of the standard of the national curriculum, knowing that he did not do it from primary? Of course, I do my diagnostic assessment to see where he is or where most of them are. So that's why if the national curriculum allows us to put the student in the center, and that's how it should be, not only allows us, but that's what education always should be like. The student is in the center. I pay attention to the characteristics of the students. And if my student, I know what he has, brings with them, and knows and is able to do, the logical thing is to adapt everything to where he needs to start and where he needs to get. That's why I also explain for the CFR, okay, B2 or B1 is possible? No, let's go to the other. Same thing happens when we look at the national curriculum. Nobody should tell you, why are you not doing a standard 7? The answer is clear. Because if you do a standard 7 and your students, if you are really doing a standard 7, because some people say they only write on the paper they are doing a standard 7, but in fact, they continue doing a standard 4. And that's why we need to understand what the standard says in order to be able to really cope with that. So if somebody questions you why you're not doing the standard 7, because you've been honest and you've written down on your planners that you're doing standard 4 or 5, then you explain, because my student is the center of my teaching and learning process. Because the student has these characteristics, because of this, that, and I'm responding to my students' needs. That famous expression, todo debe estar, responder a las necesidades de los estudiantes. That's what it means. So here we have, for writing, o escribe diversos tipos de texto, the 4 different capacities, capabilities, whatever they are calling in English, but in Spanish we call them capacidades, no? And I have just sectioned the standards. No? I have just put it where they belong. If I split, if I make it, more micro. And this is what they should be aiming to, according to the national curriculum. Adecúa su texto al propósito del texto a partir de su experiencia previa. Can we do that with the student? Can the student be doing that? Yes, because it's about them. Organiza y desarrolla sus ideas en torno a un tema. Perfect. About his learning experience, daily life. Relaciona sus ideas a través del uso de algunos conectores básicos con vocabulario de uso frecuente y construcciones gramaticales simples. Don't you see here something that is similar to what I write in the CFR? That's why I chose this level. And this is the first level. It's not, okay, they should be doing this level 6. No, this is what they should be doing. Utiliza recursos ortográficos básicos que permiten claridad en sus textos. Reflexiona y evalúa sobre su texto escrito. So, some of you may be saying, but this is too easy. Let's see if it's really easy, no? And so this is what they should be doing. They should finish their cycle, 1st and 2nd year of secondary, doing this. 3rd, 4th, 5th, the next level. My suggestion, and if we do this study of correlation with the CFR, number of hours and everything. Okay. Are there any questions there? If there are questions, it's okay if you post them about this, or at the end, I think my partners will help me check some of your questions. And now I ask you to enter this form. The form was there, right? And already posted in the chat. Let's see if you were able to enter. I'm going to check now. I will share the results. If you were able to enter, we will see your results here. Oh, good. We've got 261 answers. Well done. And what were the questions? How often do you write in Spanish? You, huh? I'm not asking about your students. I'm talking about you. How often do you write in Spanish? Oh, the majority says daily. And after daily says weekly. Good. Second question. How often do you write in English? Let's see the answers. I'm going to stop receiving answers for a moment, and then I will open it again so that you can see the result, because as you are entering and entering, it keeps on moving and moving, and you will not be able to see. Okay. Oh, daily. You also write daily in English. That's good. So good. Let's see. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to accept answers anymore. Sorry about that. I will open it again in a moment. Okay. So we have here, so far, the 269 people that were able to answer, they say that they answer, or they write English weekly and not daily. I didn't say it well. So it means that probably once a week or twice, who knows, they do it. But they remember that at least they did it once a week in English. Then comes daily. Oh, wow. Yeah, because you're teachers of English, probably that's why. And then monthly, and then never. How do you see yourself as a writer? It doesn't say what language, so just yourself as a writer. The people who were able to answer this survey, they say, I write because I have to. I write because I have to do it. If I don't, then I don't write. So in other words, you as writers, you're writing because there is a need to do it. Then we will see what type of text, but okay. So you need to write for some reason. 98 people, second in the list, is writing is my favorite activity. Wow, that's good. And I feel I am good at it. So not only do you like it, but you feel that you're really good at writing. That's positive. And then we have writing is not my favorite activity, so I avoid doing it. That's 35 people out of 269. And then finally, we have writing makes me feel anxious. I struggle expressing my ideas in the writing form. But what type of text do you write in this everyday life as a writer? And most people write notes. You know, notes are small pieces of paper. Messaging, text messaging, that's a different way of writing, but it's still writing and similar. Then comes emails, letter-like text, or reports, informes, in other words, no? Because we're teachers, I'm sure some of us write informes or comunicados a padres de familia, no? Some communication to parents. Only 21 say that they write poems, short stories, or memoirs. When I say memoirs, I know that people do that. People write about what their experiences, their opinion on their, you know, in their diaries, or probably on their blogs, even on Facebook. They don't, those are the people that don't write 2 lines in their Facebook post or Instagram post, but they write like, woof, a big thing. So those are the people that we have when we also talk about memoirs. And academic texts, only 13 people. So that's not even, that's probably 5% of all the people who responded to this survey say that they write academic texts. I'm just wondering, by looking at this, I am a teacher of English. I am an adult teacher of English. I know the language. As a teacher of English, I only write once a week. An adult. I see that I write because I have to. It's not because I just love writing. It's because I have to. When people do things because they have to, do you feel the same excitement as if you did it because you like it? And if you don't have to do it, perfect. Okay, great. I'm not going to do it. So if we, as adults, professionals, teachers of English, are not so into writing, it's natural that our students, teenagers who have an active life, having lots of stimuli from the world to do other activities that have nothing to do with writing, why should they want to write? Why? What type of text do we write? And you said that you write no text message. So in other words, you write 1 sentence, 2 sentences, and no more. the majority. But we want students to write texts that are very long sometimes, 1 page long, 2 pages long, 100 words, whatever number of words, and in a language that is not theirs. Thank you very much for your responses. I'm going back to the presentation. Thank you. Very good, Judith Calderon. She's saying that's why we need to analyze what sorry, I'm going to read it just as it is. That is why a needs analysis should be a must during our first lessons. That's in order to know who our students are, right? But if we bear in mind also why they like it, why they like writing or why don't they like writing, why should I not spend? Is it coherent to spend much more time in my class trying to connect the students with the spirit of writing? Am I really planning that in my lessons? Am I trying to enhance writing in my students so that they get to like to write? Me as a teacher, me as a writer, what am I doing to also find that joy for writing? Because want it or not, sometimes you cannot teach what you don't do, what you don't know. I think there's a saying, you cannot preach what you don't do. And how can we make students fall in love with writing if we as teachers, again, don't write? We don't write. In general, people don't write. Not only don't feel bad about that. I was also there, busy lives, doing this and that. If I have to, I'm going to write it. But then in order to make others write, it's important to make them fall in love with writing. And to make somebody fall in love into something, I should be first in love with that something. So if I give this survey to your students, what do you think they may answer this survey? Now, if how often they write, what type of text they write, even in Spanish, if they write or not. And probably the answer will be, no, why? Oh, no. Plus, whenever they write, we are always correcting them, always with red or with notes, grammar, you know, and so that can cause frustration. And again, we are reinforcing what we don't want to, the hate for writing, instead of enhancing the liking for writing. Let's see what you have here. Yes, Benjamin Chupita says, some of us don't have the writing habit. So let's develop it. Can't we do that? And if we can develop it as teachers, can we develop that into our students? So let's take this presentation and interaction as a practice for writing. I'm going to make you write a little bit, those who want to. Remember, this is important for us to develop in students, but probably more important is to develop that liking for writing in ourselves. Oh, grammar is boring and difficult, says Betsy. Yeah, because grammar is involved there. But first, why should I write if I also hate writing per se? I'm not even asking whether it's grammatical correct or not. I just don't like writing. Taking a pen or start typing out of nothing. No. What? So let's see. We have two reasons for writing, it says. The theory says that. We have writing for learning and writing for writing. And we have here two definitions. Where do they go? Is writing for learning A or B? Is writing for writing A or B? I'll give you some time to read and post your answers in the chat. 1, writing for learning is A or B? 2, writing for writing is A or B? And let's see, I know there is a little bit of a delay, so I'm just checking if some of you could get the definition of what writing for learning is and writing for writing is. Okay, number one, Angela, I suppose you're saying that number one is B, and Cami, you're saying that is A. Aquilina says A, Frances B, 1B, thank you, Noemi, Mercedes Davila Alania, she has written in the text, 1B to A. And yes, and so I will do that change. That's exactly what it is like. This goes here, and this goes here. And I will read it out for you, although you already read it. Writing for learning is language practice, vocabulary or specific structure or structures. Example, when you write sentences about the language they have been studying. Let's do an exercise right now. All of you are attentive, so I'm going to ask you to do the following. My favorite food is because. And answer please in the chat. My favorite food is because. Complete. My favorite food is because and you write it. Let's see how many answers we have. Wow, lots of answers. Okay, thank you very much for being so active in the chat. So I will repeat the sentence for those who are probably joining us. My favorite food is because how could you complete all of that? Write a sentence. It's just a sentence. I will give my answer, but in a moment, because I want you to write it, type it in this case, no? Thank you. Maggie says, my favorite food is steak because the flavor is delicious. Mirka says, my favorite food is paella because I like seafood. Wow, I'm from Spain. Elmer says, my favorite food, is ceviche because it's so spicy. I love spicy as well and hot. Noemi says, my favorite food is ceviche because it's delicious and nutritious, and even it rhymes. Okay. Jenny says, Sonia says, my favorite food is spaghetti because it's delicious. And we have hundreds of answers. Maria del Pilar says, my favorite food is chanfainita because I like buffet. That's a good one, but you have to know how to make it, right? Well, anyway, so if we do this as a habit, if every class will start with a sentence that can cause interest in students, for students to write it quickly, and then they put it on small papers and you collect it, that cannot take you more than 5 minutes because you say, okay, let's do it quickly. They will start to get to like to write, at least to hold the pen, put it on the paper and write it down. So let's create that habit into them. And like this sentence, we have other sentences. Can you think of other sentences that are very short and that the students can also immediately have ideas and write it down? And that can be connected or not to your lesson, because this is like making just a habit. If it's connected to your lesson, that is even greater. That's the greatest thing you can do. But if not, it's creating the habit. At least start creating the habit. And what other questions what other sentences do you think you can ask students to complete, to write? Any idea? I'm going to wait for those possible sentences, small ones. And notice that we're practicing favorite food is, that order, because some people say my food favorite, and we know that is my favorite food. But okay, they practice the order. My favorite food is, and the link, remember the linking device? Because, no? So they know they have to write a reason there. So what other sentences can we ask the students to write? The basic things would be, okay, you can keep changing my favorite song, my favorite, but could be others. No? Today I got up. Okay, even if you say today I got up, and students have to say at 7 p.m. Even writing that will make them remember that you say at 7 p.m. and they are writing. Remember that we are developing the habit for writing first. So I hope you like this activity. Writing for writing is become better writers. Remember, that's how I was questioning before whether we write or not in our daily lives, or how, if we get to like it or not. So when we want to be a writer, it's more like we want to communicate something. In other words, there is a real life reason for writing. Some examples of those real life type of texts are emails, posters, reports, letters, memoirs, diaries, stories, like that. So we have like these two ways of writing. Should we not do writing for learning and only focus on writing for writing because that's the aim? Or should we do both? I think we should be doing both. It sounds logical, doesn't it? And it's okay. So sometimes we will need writing for learning, but let's not lose our focus that we are aiming to make students writing for writing. And remember that we have the standards, we have the CFR, what we should be looking at, coherence, at appropriacy, etc., accuracy. So that's good. Very good. I have some short sentences. Marta Simbaña says, for example, I like weekends because, and then they have to complete, no? Very good. Very good. I got up at 8 a.m. because my family came at my home. Okay. Whatever sentence, think of small sentences that the students can complete for writing for learn. So if we have this clear that sometimes we need to do writing for learning and we are aiming for students to become writers, so writing for writing should always be there present too. So both of them. The problem for many years is that we have focused too much in writing for learning only, but at the end, we expect the students to do writing for writing. How come? How can they write for write if they have not been doing the whole process? So it's a balance. Both of them, they help each other, but the aim is writing for writing to become better writers. Oh, there are more suggestions. Thank you very much for being that active. Marcela have, for example, another small sentences. I can play but I can, no, I can't. No, so it's like negative. All right, I like to teach because I love children. I like to because, okay, I like to run, I like to walk, I like to play football. That's excellent. So you got the idea, you've got it clear. Well done, clever people. So other ideas for building this habit for writing for learning. Instant writing is what we've just done. Have sentences. Those are the examples you were giving. My favorite relative is 2 sentences with 2 words. For example, you write movie actor. And then since write 2 sentences using these words, movie and actor. And they may write, my favorite movie is The Planet of the Apes. And because my favorite actor, I don't remember the name, I think he's my favorite actor. No? The main actor is, I don't remember the name now. I'm bad at names, to be honest. But that's my favorite food for sure. My favorite film for sure is The Planet of the Apes. So you can give sentences that are more relatable for students, and they start writing words, and they start writing 1 sentence, 2 sentences, 3 sentences. So in some moments you give half sentences, in some moments you can give words. And again, that's called instant writing. Using music. You can listen to a song. We're going to do that right now. And you can play a song. Any song for students to listen to the song and write something about it. I hate the song. Oh, this song is so sad. And you don't need to listen to the whole song. You can listen to just a piece of the song. So just a piece, like 30 seconds of the song, 1 minute of the song, and students, okay, now write about the song. And the singer of the song is Miley Cyrus. They are writing. Oh, this song is so boring. They are writing. Or they can write about the story. If they have a better level of English and they understand what is happening there, they may write like, she needs to forget her boyfriend. That's probably one for Shakira. No? Okay, she needs to forget her boyfriend, depending on what they are listening to. The fact that they are building this habit will make them not have this, this kind of wanting to take distance for writing, but that will be more likable for them in the future. Let's build that habit. Another is you listen or you read a short story. So you can listen to a short story, similar, kind of the same. You do what you do with a song, you do with a small story. So you just say, there was a tall man looking at me. I was alone. And then they continue. And they continue writing. And they don't have to write a story, but they can just write how they could complete that part of that story. So it's quite similar, the song and the reading of a story. This is another way, and we're going to do this one. You read the beginning of a story to students, just the beginning, and then you play a song. And students, using the beginning that they listen from you, and listening to the song, what they inspired to them, they will write the rest of the story. Would you like to do that? Can we practice that? Yes, let's do it. Okay, I will start. I will tell you the beginning of the story. Please get ready with your phones. It was a rainy, cold morning when I saw a beautiful bird on the tree that I could see through my bedroom window. I will repeat. It was a rainy, cold morning when I saw a beautiful bird on the tree that I could see through my bedroom window. And let's see how many people do it. Of course, I chose a song for adults, for you as teachers. You will choose other songs, I'm sure, for your students. Oh, that's nice, Benjamin. So I will complete the story. It was a rainy, cold morning when I saw a beautiful bird on the tree that I could see through my bedroom window. The birds were singing happy and loud. Ana Maria is more concrete. Thank you, Ana Maria. And you've done it. You wrote. It was a rainy, cold morning when I saw a beautiful bird on the tree that I could see through my bedroom window. I listened to music to continue learning English. Well done. Okay. Jose Ramos says, you made me travel. I don't know where he went with this, but okay. And that's what we have. So the idea is that we choose songs that the students will be more relatable to, they will feel more related to, and you give part of the story, put a song, play the song, and they write. We do this in order to create a habit in students, right? So we're creating habits in students, and that's good because then they will not, next time you say, okay, let's write it, they will just hold the pen. Little by little. It's not something that will happen from one day to the next or from 1 week to the next one. It's something that has to be constant. We can also have poems, and instead of points, we can have acronyms. No, we can have like words, you know what acronyms are, and then students create completing the acronym with their names, with objects, just an acronym that you think that can be interesting for students, and that can also be part of your habits. Collaborative writing. This is another thing that you should be working on. We will see some of that in a moment. And the more students interact with their peers, the happier they are, to be honest. What sometimes we don't like as teachers is the noise, that they don't use English, that some of them may misbehave. But that's something we can control as well, because we are, our classroom management also will see that. But it's important that they work collaboratively most of the time, especially for writing too. No? There are different activities. I'm sure you know of some. No, there are like writing stories. You give a picture to each of the students, and students write about that, write about whatever they have in the picture, and then they put their pieces together, and they can have a story out of that. And that's okay. But it's collaborative writing, no? Or there's another activity in which they write on one paper, each of them, and then the next person writes the other piece of the story, but you receive the paper of the other person. They are in circles until they all get a paper with different sentences, but with a story. No? So there are different activities that can work to build the habit for writing. Students get to like it, and we're doing, in this way, we're doing writing for learning, but we should be aiming to writing for writing. Okay. And in writing for writing is when we use this famous writing cycle, writing process, whatever you want to call them. And you start with planning, drafting, editing, revising, publishing. Some people may have, or some processes may include other, there was one that was reflection instead of revising. And so that can happen. But the idea is that there is a cycle. It's not like I just give the paper, okay, write an email to a friend and you give the task, and no. In order to do this writing for writing, or writing for writing, yes, it's compulsory for us to think of that process thoroughly. If we're talking about entertainment, for example, and this, I am talking about this because somebody was asking me my opinion about some of the planning they were doing, and they were talking about theater and how related that was for students or not. So I said, okay, you don't have to talk about theater only, but you can talk about street comedian circles, no? Those that are in the street. So when you do writing for writing, you usually connect the process with all of the skills, with listening, with speaking, with reading, and also viewing. And viewing, in this case, pictures, is helpful. You can ask students to write what they see, but you can also ask students to tell you what they see, describe what they see, and to be more critical. If you want to build critical thinking in your students, which you should, and I think Sandra is coming to do that in the next session next week. Ask what they don't see in the picture. No? So, for example, what do you think happened before this picture was taken, the first one? What happened before? The more you make students be used to the language, the more they will understand it. Same thing with the circles, or when they start, when they are started, real beginners, they just describe what they exactly see in the picture. No? How many people are there, or how is this woman dressed? How many people are in the center? What color is the tent or the marquee? And so forth. Same thing with the theater. Here, you may ask students to write what they see, again, writing, but at the same time, you're asking to write what they see, but you're also doing what part of the process of writing? You're doing planning. Because for students to start writing about something, if you want to write something about entertainment, then you can plan your learning experience that may last 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, based on entertainment. And then what works very well with this when they are doing the planning process is to use graphic organizers. And this is one graphic organizer that is agreed, no? That is more common. So what you can do is you can ask students to work collaboratively. You make groups. No? Maybe one group will talk about the circus, one group will talk about the theater, or you make all of them, each group writes about the three of them, and post-its or these little papers can help, no? Little pieces of paper. And then you ask the students to come to the front, to the board, or put it on a paper in a graphic organizer. So graphic organizers are really helpful to help the students build the vocabulary that they will need later for their writing. At the same time, you're helping them with the process of writing. So it's not that I have to do one different from the other. One activity for planning and one totally different activity for vocabulary. No, it's connected. No, that's what we're doing. And at the same time, we're developing the like for writing. What other graphic organizers can you use? I have used the grid, which is a common, easy way of organizing vocabulary. What other graphic organizers can you use? Do you know any other? How can you ask students to, yeah, oh, very good. Angela Martinez says you can also make students compare those places. Yes, yes, definitely. So why not? And plus, this organization of ideas is not easy. We're also helping them developing that reasoning, no? Reasoning in students. They are thinking, this word goes here or there, or maybe it goes in both, no? So we have like these graphic organizers, Venn diagrams, concept maps, flow charts, flower grids, column charts, which was the one I used, the grid, taxonomies. So you can make them use all the graphic organizers that you think will help them the most. Any other that you want to add them. Maybe students can also create their own, maybe, who knows. The Venn diagram, exactly, the Venn diagram, that's what we have. Mental map, mind map, Venn diagram. There are so many, So, but it's a good idea for students to write something on little papers and then they stand up, move, and stick on graphic organizers that they can draw or graphic organizers that you as a teacher provide. So it's up to you, no? That can help them vocabulary building. Another way of helping them vocabulary building, we're talking about, we've finished with entertainment, whatever, the process continue, but we can also, we're talking about favorite pets or pets in general, but a good use for whatever piece of writing, for whatever topic you're doing, when you want to develop vocabulary in students, use pictures. As you well said, one of the people, the teachers in the audience, I remember the name now, we can make them compare, and we can make these versus, dogs versus cats. And so in groups, students talk about it. So you can do speaking. And, or they can write about it too, but let's try also speaking. And they talk about, yeah, cats are like this. You say, okay, name the characteristics, depending on the level again of the students. Name the characteristics of cats, name the characteristics of dogs, name what they do, what they can do, what they can't do, why people have cats, what people have dogs, etc., depending again on the level, but you're helping students build the vocabulary that they need so that later they write about pets, no? They talk about it, talk about the picture, but they also write what they were talking about, because as we're aiming to make the students write, so it's good that they speak and they write whatever ideas they have, because that's the brainstorming part, that's the planning phase, no? The planning phase. They get ideas from everybody. And then we have people presenting those ideas so that the whole class knows what other vocabulary they can learn from their partners, from their peers. And they have more ideas so that they can start writing. It doesn't happen in one lesson, so don't get desperate. It may take 2 lessons or 3, and it's fine. Nobody writes that easily. Nobody. Because, and this is, I didn't add this in the presentation, but it is said that it's as important as having these elements for writing the language, as important as having the language is also to have the environment for writing. So it's not only important the language that I need for writing, but if the environment invites me to write. When one produces a text, when we're writing for writing, we need to be in a comfortable place for me. Some people don't like noise in order to produce, in order to have, okay, I have my ideas about animals, what my friends gave me, but am I going to write under pressure in the last 5 minutes of the class? So let's try to create a real atmosphere for writing. Let's try to give suggestions to students. And myself, for example, when I write, I like listening to classical music. That, I don't know why, but that inspires me and that makes me feel focused. So, and that's when creativity comes. So, but everybody has different ways of inspiring themselves to write. So I have the language, I have everything I need, I have planned, but the atmosphere where I am writing is also important. Okay, so if we have these verses, cats versus dogs, what other pictures can you present? What other verses can you think of? What other verses? Do you have any ideas? Cats and dogs is something that everybody likes talking about, but there are other very good ideas I'm sure you can think of. What other verses? What about, I don't want to say it. I'm going to wait for this. For the text, for your participation, sorry, in the chat. Countries, great, good, Cesar. So you can have regions too, no? Cusco, Arequipa, Loreto, and you have 2 pictures of those 2 places. What other ideas? Men and women. Oh, that's going to be like everybody wants to talk about that, no? Girlfriends versus boyfriends. Oh, yeah. Teenagers, they love chocolate versus ice cream. Junk food and vegetables. Girls and boys. Hamburger versus hot dogs. Lisbeth. Oh, wow, Stephanie, you will have a fight in the classroom. Alianza team versus U team. Okay. So, and whatever you think that will inspire students to have more ideas for writing. And whatever topic you're doing, try to look for that contrast so that they get to want to participate, to get to know the vocabulary they need. So they will ask you, they will use dictionaries, they will use what their parents have presented, etc. So they have all these ideas so that they can later write about whatever topic you're aiming to. No? Good, well done. Thank you very much. We have Maria Rodriguez, basket versus soccer. And well, Messi versus Ronaldo, says Dora Lisa. Wow, yes. So lots of ideas, lots of ideas. Well done. Now, this is a common question when we're doing writing for writing, even for adults and even for Spanish. I am not a fan of this, but it's okay. Plus, if I remember, if I am honest with myself, when I was a student, I also asked for that. Do you have a sample? So if I am asked to write a letter, an email, or an essay, whatever, I want to see how it's written. Do you have a sample? But it's not a good idea to say, okay, you have done nothing of what we've been studying so far with you. No, we have not done nothing of nothing. And we just say, what expression? I've translated an expression that does not exist in English, nothing of nothing. It's nothing at all. I've done nothing at all for students to start the process of writing. And I just tell them, write an essay. And of course, they will ask me for a sample. But it can also happen that I do all this process and still they ask me for a sample. The second scenario is much better. No, I've worked with them and they only need a sample. Maybe they will just to confirm. But if I do none of the activities and I just ask them to write, it's probably they will only like a sample. They would like a sample just to exactly copy there, know what's happening, and none of the processes that we want them to go through will happen. I don't know if that's clear enough, but maybe I can change the color later. But I've got here a process. Okay, I'm going to give you a sample, but what if we give them a sample in a process? you read a sample, or students will read a sample. They get a text of what they are aiming to write at the end. If I want them to write an email, I get them to read an email from the beginning, or 2 emails. But what do I do with those emails? Not only do I understand what is being said in the email, which is the purpose of having that email for you, what is the purpose of the writer for having that email, but also analyze the effectiveness of the language that they are using, the language used, and the structure of the text. So do not only analyze the content of the reading as a piece of text that is written for a purpose, but also add the analysis of the language, the structure, the effectiveness, no? In other words, the format. I didn't want to use that, but that's the structure, no? How many paragraphs, how are the paragraphs structured, what ideas do you put first versus the introduction, depending on the kind of text you're doing. Okay, so it's not only that I give the sample away, no? You focus on that language that they will need, you focus on the language that is most likely to be a problem for students, or that is mostly used in that kind of text. You do some guided writing after that, something, for example, where they have to complete, or something they have to personalize. They have this, the structure of the text is helpful, but I only need to change the information with my information. That's a good first step to start building this confidence in writing for writing. Then I have my own draft. Now I'm given the task and I have my own draft, but I also have to have my self-assessment. This is very important. Whenever students produce something, even if it's the product of a guided writing, they should analyze if it fulfills the objectives for writing that piece of text. No? Am I expressing the ideas well? Will the reader understand what I want to express? Yeah. Also the structure, analyze, is the structure I'm using the appropriate one? How can I improve this myself? But also it's helpful to have students, other students, to assess what I have written. It's my first draft. The more you practice this with these other students, with the students, the more students will be doing this better. At the beginning, probably they will be joking too much, but the more they do it, believe me, they will concentrate on the piece of writing, and they will help that. And they will also become fast at doing this peer assessment. And obviously you as a teacher, you're also giving assessment. So all of that is what we call feedback. So I receive all the feedback, and then I have a second version of the draft. Then again, I receive feedback because I want to double check if what they told me was incorporated, or I should explain why I did not incorporate what they told me, because that's valid. When you receive feedback, you are the one deciding what is going to be helpful or not, but you have the feedback. And if you don't take that feedback, you should be able to explain why you're not taking that feedback. So that process is, again, you have the self-assessment, and then after that you have the editing. Okay, some things that I need to correct, I see if there are mistakes or not. Then we have the peer revision. That's the final thing before publishing, and it's advisable to do it with other peer. And the publishing. Although the publishing is there on its own, what I want you to focus is the publishing is very important, because that's the product that they have of all of this process. They asked me, do you have a sample? Okay, so look at all the process. I know they are going to ask me, so I do this. Do I do this in one class? No, so don't get desperate. Nobody produces a text in 40 minutes, but we are producing, or we are following a process that will lead me to produce a text. No? And obviously there's the learning is in the reflection. So always end up with a reflection. How I felt during this process, what part of the process helped me, what was the most effective strategy I used for writing, what helped me, what did not, did I accomplish the goal or not, and so forth. So I don't know how much I've been talking, but I want to thank you very much for the chance to talk with all of you. You were a very active audience, and I also would like to invite you to join EL Talk, where we are there with other group of teachers, and you can also be part of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, dear Karen, for your amazing presentation. Usual. Now we're going to continue with some questions for you. Yeah, Angela Salazar, are you there? Hello, my lady. Go ahead.
Hello, hello. Hello. Karen, it's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you so much for all what you provide today. All the teachers are there saying thank you many, many times. So thanks again in behalf of all of them. And I'm gonna start with the questions here. I have some here. Just give me a second. I moved my phone. The first question is
Yes.
from oh, I don't have the name. Yes, Jenny Vallejo. She asks, what kind of writing activities can we use to make writing more enjoyable for students?
I think I presented some of them, but whatever you do, try to connect with what the students like, to their interests. So for example, the music I used for the activity I did was more, I know, you know that song because it's from our times. But if we use one song that the students are more likely to have heard in now, they will probably get to like it more. Using sentences also that may be of their interest, talking about sports, using pictures that are, you know, things that will inspire them to talk about or to write about. Like you all said, like I hadn't thought of that, Alianza Lima versus Universitario. Those things will make students be connected to the class, but you have to take advantage of that connection to make them write now. Make them write. Little by little, the more we build that habit in students, the more effective the writing will be afterwards when you want to do the writing for writing.
Thank you so much. The next question is from Miss Carmen Guzman. She asks if you could tell us some strategies to evaluate the writing skills with, well, since we have 40 students in class. Or maybe more.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's hard. I know it's hard, but that's why if we make circles of students, groups of students who first give feedback to each other, and we are just monitoring that feedback is being given, okay, that could be a first step. And then in the second round of feedback, that's when we can enter. We can, you know, ask students to give us that paper, take it with us, and then give them back to them. But they have already gone through the first feedback from their partners. So at the end, we will anyway have to read what they have done in their final product. But it's always good to read at least once in the process. And my advice is as well, I don't want to forget this, is that when you are giving feedback to students about their writing, we are killing that interest, that everything we did, if we only concentrate on giving feedback on language. Let's give feedback on the intention of the writer. Your story is so interesting. It made me cry. Oh, this is a fun story, what you're telling me. Please tell me more about it next time. So try to give feedback that will allow students to make the connection that what they write is really being read, and not only the grammar. Not only, okay, this is not the word, no, okay, do it again. No, because we're killing that intention that we are trying to build in students, writing for writing.
Thank you so much. This last question is from teacher Cristobal Nivelo. He asks, how can I make writing a habit, and what are the advantages? That is the question.
Yes, we were talking about that. It's important. Whatever, there's a saying here that says you can have the talent. You can be very talented in whatever you think you are. But if you add habits or add actions that are repeated in your life to become better, nobody will stop you. You will go further. So same thing, we want students to write. Let's build that habit in them. Let's do it. I presented some ideas. You can have, I'm sure, much more. And again, whatever habits you want to build in students, try to always connect with what they like, no? To their context.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I have one last question here from teacher Carlos Cooley. He asks, which of these writings can we combine with low learners? I suppose that he's asking how to combine good students with the ones that are probably they're needing some help.
Mixed ability classes are good. Mixed ability classes are good. And remember, we are always trying to be more inclusive and value diversity. So in the past, as teachers of English, we loved separating students into levels. Let's rethink if that's the way we should be working. If we continue doing that, are we being inclusive? Are we appreciating diversity? Are we really helping students value the differences and how we take advantage of mixed ability classes? Myself, I know I did that for a long time. I've been doing that, and I have definitely thought about that and changed my practice.
Thank you so much, Karen, for being here tonight. It's been a huge pleasure for us to have you here, and I want to invite you to stay with us for a bit longer. Thanks again.
Thank you, and thanks everybody.
Now we have.
Yeah. 700 teachers are connected, so it's an amazing presentation. Now we are going to continue with the exit ticket. So remember that we have a keyword, and the keyword for today's session is, one second, please.
Dear Miss Miriam Cordova, are you there, please, to help us with the exit ticket?
Yeah, so I have some problems with the sound of my. So the keyword is approach. Okay, remember, teachers, please approach. Angelita, you can continue, please, with the exit ticket. Miss
Miriam. Yeah, she's here. Don't forget them, please. The code is approach.
Yeah, okay. I'm here. Hello, everyone. My pleasure to be here again in order to share with you the exit ticket. You know, this is the part that you need to complete the exit ticket in order to register your assistance. Okay, and it's important to remember that it will be available only for 15 minutes. Es importante saber esto porque hay muchos o algunos por ahí que estaban pidiendo el exit ticket cuando ingresaban, ¿no? Porque ingresaron tarde. Recuerden que el exit ticket va en este orden, ¿no? Si ya estamos nosotros asistiendo, este es nuestro tercer webinar, debemos saber la secuencia y respetar nuestro orden de el registro de asistencia. Este es el momento en el que registramos nuestra asistencia. Recuerden, el exit ticket es https cut.ly todo minúscula / e mayúscula T mayúscula, I minúscula, P mayúscula. Subguión, y tenemos la palabra writing skill. Writing con mayúscula, WRITING, S, minúscula, KILL. Damos tiempo para que ustedes vayan copiando, porque también está fijado en el chat está fijado en el chat y por favor hay que respetar los momentos. Solo tienen 15 minutos. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Miriam. ¿Todavía está con el eco mi audio? ¿Me ayudan, teachers? ¿O escúchame mejor, Angelita?
Sí, aún estás con eco, María.
Uy, hoy ya me tocó, no sé dónde hacerla. ¿Me acompañas, por favor, para que puedas invitar para la próxima semana? Y si puedes hacerlo por ti, para que vayas solucionando el eco de la tecnología que a veces nos flexiona.
No te preocupes. La próxima semana tendremos a Miss Sandra Mazuelos, quien estará con nosotros en el webinar Developing Creative and Critical Thinking Through Language Skills. Así que los esperamos, ya saben ustedes, como siempre tenemos una cita el próximo sábado a las 6 de la tarde con Miss Sandra Mazuelos, no se lo pierdan por favor. Y ya saben ustedes que aún queda tiempo, tienen estos 15 minutitos para llenar su exit ticket, su exit ticket. Vamos a ver. Los esperamos. Y ahora sí, nos despedimos todo el equipo administrativo de English Teachers in Perú. Ha sido como siempre un gusto estar con todos ustedes y en este momento están prendiendo todos los admins presentes sus camaritas para podernos despedir de todos ustedes. Again, it was a pleasure to see you.
Bye bye, see you.
Allí están Miss Sulamita, Miss Miriam, Teacher Ricardo, Miss Karen. Está también Teacher José, como siempre, en la transmisión. Miss Mariela también está por ahí despidiéndose de ustedes. Un abrazo para todos.
Y darles gracias, no sé si tiene todavía mi problema, pero igual tengo que decir gracias a nombre de toda la comunidad de English Teachers in Perú, y mejor si suena con eco porque es el doble de gracias para ti. Muchas gracias de todo corazón por el tiempo que has dado para la comunidad. Esperamos poder volver a contar contigo. Gracias por todo lo compartido y tal vez tengas un mensaje para la comunidad antes de concluir con la sesión.
No, gracias, o sea, muchas gracias y cuando quieran y los tiempos lo permitan, aquí estoy para ayudarnos y aprender de ustedes también y de los profesores que siempre están interactuando y se aprende mucho de ahí también. Gracias.
Gracias, Karen. Bye, bye. See you next week.